you know, talk about it. So anyhow, that's how we got connected with Mary, so, my office letter, you it, so, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Charlie. Too many use a little mic because I don't have that big of a voice and I want you to hear. Hopefully. Thank you for coming out tonight. It's cold. It's a cold night to be out here. Before we get started, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on where this performance comes from because this will help set the stage for you. In my real life, I lived in a former forest. It is a forest that took millions of years to evolve. And then in the course of just over 100 years, it was largely removed by the early settlers coming into the region. And this would have started in the late 1700s. The awareness that I lived in the former forest dawned on me slowly. And that's because I live in a really urban neighborhood on a really busy street, lots of traffic. So it wasn't something that was readily apparent to me. And when I say awareness, I don't mean the facts that there was a forest, that it took millions of years to evolve and that it is now largely gone. I mean the awareness that it is not gone. It is still here. You can see this in any little patch of earth that we haven't covered over with concrete. There are going to be trees trying to come up. And that's because they are from here. They evolved here with this soil, with this amount of sunlight, with these 4 seasons at this latitude. They're from here, they want to be here, and they are trying to keep a toehold on their existence here. Well, I never really thought about that before so much. Among my early teachers in all of this were squirrels, and watching squirrels and trees and the relationship, because there's definitely a relationship going on, and I don't know how the trees feel about it, but the squirrels always look like they're having a blast, and I always kind of want to be a squirrel because it looks fun. And of course, squirrels plant seeds for trees, and in my yard they plant acorns and buckeyes and walnuts, and of course, the trees provide the squirrels with food and with a place to live, should they choose not to live in the eaves of your house. Other teachers for me were barred owls. I learned that at one of the kids' nature camps. We're very blessed in our urban neighborhood to have the place of barred owls. And I've actually been sitting out on my front porch of a summer's night, and there's a bus going by and some cars and kids on skateboards, and I hear overhead this. And the reason we have the barn owls is because we have big tall trees in some pockets of the neighborhood still there. They don't live in redbuds or serviceberries or dogwoods. Barn owls need the big tall trees. And while I was sitting out there, I thought, geez, all you have to do if you wanted to get rid of the owls was just cut the trees down. They'd have to go somewhere else. And that story has certainly happened in many places. All of this led me to think about my neighborhood with a whole different perspective. I started to try to imagine that I was a bird and I could look down or be like a drone and look down. And what I realized is even though it's sparse, there is a canopy up there. There's a whole web of life going on up there. And of course, it's connected to what's going on down here. And this made me want to look more closely at my little spot on Earth. It made me decide to shrink my perspective. So I started looking smaller and smaller, closer and closer. Intersecting longitude, latitude lines where I live make an X. X marks the spot, literally, where this performance comes from. Because as I started thinking about it, it's like, well, how am I taking care of my X? What's radiating out from my X? How's my X connected to the next X? And what are we leaving for those who come next? And with all of that in mind, when I decided to do this performance, I was like, well, I'm gonna try to make it be as low impact as I possibly can. And so to that end, everything up here is either recycled or borrowed or being reused for the umpteenth time, or is simply old. However, I want this to be an exciting theatrical experience for you. And so to that end, I have included some special effects. If you would be so willing as to help create them with me. Are you willing? Yes. They are the consents. The first one is called Lights Out, and it goes like this. Lights out. Lights on. And if you missed it, I closed my eyes and I opened my eyes. And now, just so that we can have the shared audience experience, we're going to practice that one together, okay? Are you ready? Here we go. Lights out. Lights on. And so now I think you see how it works. The second one is called Lights Out with Sound, and you're gonna close your eyes, do this, and I'm gonna do whatever it is I have to do, and then I'm gonna say, lights on, and stop. The third one is perhaps the trickier one of all of them, but it's not that hard. It is known as the human voice choral effect. And this requires you guys learning the chorus of a song that comes up at the end of scene 2, thus creating the human voice choral effect. I'm going to teach it to you right now. The words are basically in tonight, in today. And I'll hit the verses and you guys will just come in. Chorus. In tonight, in today, past never go away. In tonight, in today, in tonight, today, tonight, today. That's it. Okay, let's try it together. In tonight, in today, past never go away. Tonight, in today, tonight, today, tonight, today. All right, this makes me look forward to the end of scene 2, y'all. I think that pretty much covers everything. Oh, if at any point in this performance you hear mention of cows, and you're one of those kind of people who likes to moo, because some people like their low and moo, please feel free to do that. X marks the. Lights out. Lights on. Step on a line, break your mother's spine. Step on a crack, break your mother's back. Step on a lock. Did you ever rhyme like that when you were kids? Is that not the weirdest rhyme you ever did? When you were a kid, weren't you trying to figure out what the heck? I'm going to tell you, it has conditioned how I walk even unto this day, because God forbid my brothers see my toe stepping the line or a crack. So I'm always like, still walking like that. But I'm just as inclined these days to want to stop and have a little look and see what's growing down there. Because chances are something's growing in that crack in the sidewalk. And I will venture a guess that you have all lived near a sidewalk with a crack, having something growing in it, right? At some point in your life. Hey, what is it? How did it get there? How's it doing that? What impels it? I mean, what the heck? And why am I talking about this? Because that crack in the sidewalk contains a story. It contains a history of planet, no less. Dun, 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 geology. The story of the creation of our minerals and elements is there in the makeup of that concrete. Dun, 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 the soil, the living, breathing soil, that which feeds us is there in the roots and growth of whatever it is coming up through that crack in the sidewalk. Dun, 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 dun. The atmosphere, the ongoing, interactive, ever balancing atmospheric gases. Is there in the living, lying, decaying, and living again of whatever that is coming up through that crack in the sidewalk. And that story, what's going on in here, and what sustains our brains, which allow us to build a sidewalk, which has the crack, which has the plant, which tells the story. Step on the line, break your mother's spine, step on the crack, break your mother's back. Perhaps that little rhyme was trying to tell us the mother of all stories, the story of life, wanting to live. That crack is connected to the Grand Canyon, folks. It literally is. Perhaps we have forgotten that not only do we share the same address, we share the very same beginnings, go way back. In the beginning, in the beginning, in the beginning of time, stars was gathered into a big hall. In the beginning of time, stardust spun up the sphere. In the beginning of time, on stardust here, later we stand on the shoulders of time. How history, what set in motion, lengthen stories of life. To propaganda, the thought out in the tale of the journey we ride. Giving to all of our living, think what's been filling our heart. There's only one spirit, which we are all rooted, whether we like it or not. All books, all lost, all lands, well, from all that's living, gratitude for what's at hand. Stop, all details, football, access points, and all time. Oh, and this is a thought about it. Staying on the shoulders of time. Walk down and staying on the shoulders of time. Years ago, on the night of a vernal equinox, and when winter is turning into spring, I decided to sit out in my backyard and think about those words. They're from Henry David Thoreau. I had learned earlier in the week that it was going to be a full moon on this night. I was like, whoa, full moon. Sit outside and watch the sunset and watch the moon rise and experience the vernal equinox, whatever I thought that might mean. So I go out there, me and my little perspective. Okay, there's the chain link fence at the back of my yard, and just over that are my neighbor's yard, and here's the garage and the driveway and chain link fence, and Just on the other side is the empty apartment building. It's being rehabbed. Here's the leaf fire I built for the occasion, and here's a chain link fence in my neighbor's house, and right behind me is my house. So I go outside. Now, it turned out it had rained all day, so everything was wet, the concrete, the non-concrete, and I couldn't get anybody in my family or any of my friends to be out there. They're like, it's miserable night. Yeah, no thanks. So I'm out there by myself, and well, there was this really dense, low-hanging cloud cover, so I did not see the sunset. I did not see the moonrise. I did not see the vernal equinox. Not that I would have, but all three of those things were happening, whether I could see them or not. I'm just trying to give you the picture here. There was no hippy-dippy woo-woo mountain. In many ways, you could describe this as a completely unnatural setting. And I have since learned you can describe it this way. Longitude 39.806,403, latitude -84.794511, tax district 0019, conveyance number 13030488942, parcel number 19676852301, section 22, fractional range 24315, highway 2715550, and on the numbers. This perspective I had never had of it before. For some people, that is their perspective. Realtors really. But to complete the picture for you, and this is important because it fueled a lot of future thought for me. As I'm sitting there, on comes this obnoxiously bright light at the far back corner of the apartment building parking lot. There has not been electricity there for months. What's going on? And it is shining down on a brand new portalette. Of course not. Let me expect it. Fire heavenly angel. No, it's just a light and a timer shining on a porta potty. And that was my saying, as our planet, in alignment with the sun, being circled by the moon, continuing its ancient, majestic turning from one season to the next. The ancients built monuments to this moment. And so have well, I get to thinking about the ancients. How far back in time have people been observing equinox? And the answer is many years, thousands of years, thousands and thousands of years. We know this from archaeological records and artifacts that they've left behind, that they understood themselves in the context of these celestial cycles going on in a way that, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, you stop when I look at the moon and go, okay, is it getting bigger or getting smaller? They just have this note that we don't always have today. The intersecting longitude-latitude lines where I live make an X. X marks the spot where a man named Herman Zimmerman built his house. I live in the house Herman Zimmerman built. When Herman Zimmerman built his house, he built it on a spot that had witnessed every sunset and sunrise since the beginning of time. Of course, we're sitting on a spot right now. There's no spot, of course, I can't say that, but I like to act like it's a big deal about my house. How far back in time have people been observing equinoxes or solstices or any of the cycles we can see? Crop cycles, rain cycles, migratory cycles, moon cycles. The answer is many, many, many years. And all the while they've been happening at the same time, there are these cycles going on. Carbon cycles and nitrogen cycles and rock cycles, and they interact and they affect things and they affect us, and maybe we affect them. And right off the bat, we were given the most elemental of all cycles. Sunrises and sunsets. Only in the beginning, the earth had no mass. It was just this forming ball of bits of stardust and gases and early elements. It had no mass. It was spinning super fast. It was spinning so fast that sunrises and sunsets were happening every 6 hours. Good day, good night, good day, good night, good day, good night. Would have been exhausting. Good day, good night, good day, good night, and it's been going on for billions of years. Good day, good night, good day, and we're in the middle of one right now as we sit here together in Westchester, and this is the time to sing and tonight today. So it's time for the human voice choral chat, y'all. Oh, thing that is all been here, the long time is not gone away. While all that has changed, the one constant thing is that turning from night to day. Eons and eras and epochs and ages and centuries and on and years. While all that has changed, the one constant thing is the turning from night to day. Today, that's never go away. Tonight, it's today, into night, today, into night. It's worth a thought. You may think that I'm nuts singing about night today. But it's worth the thought that we're constantly spinning without thinking, speaking away. Without intention, we do this together, no matter our point of view. But the sun's never set, it's us turning away, which is really what's happening. It's not setting, it's us going this way. It's something that we naturally do. Tonight, in today, that each of us circles the same exact sun without any all this is going on without our we spend us. Just once in a while we went outside. And hurt ourselves and watch just once in a while. We turn away from the sun. That or something like that, just once in a while. When we start and we fall, that would keep us alive for the lot of us. It's just be kind to us all. Tonight, today, as never on the way. Tonight, today, into night. I feel tonight today. It's out, it's out. Zimmerman's house is rock solid. Though in fact, it is made. It has a tile roof that has been there since its beginning. The brick and the tile come from clay in southeast Ohio. The clay in southeast Ohio comes from the sediment of long ago oceans and lakes that came and went and came and went. In many ways, you could say Herman Zimmerman's house is millions of years old. Among the many methane-exuding characters surrounding Herman Zimmerman's house these days, there is an architect in our neighborhood. He was able to tell me about these bricks. And you guys, check this out. I sent this man an email, and I felt a little shy because I'm like, dear sir, can you tell me where the bricks in my house came from? And he answered me right away. So, yeah, man, the bricks in your house, they came from out there, southeast Ohio. Well, actually, all the houses in your neighborhood, they were all built around the same time. So, yeah, all of that clay out there, like Portsmouth, apparently, like, there's just a ton of clay, and apparently it's really good for firing. Oh, in fact, they're the tiles on your roof, they were made, in fact, the company that made the tiles for your roof, they're still making them. Only now they use a gas-fired oven instead of a wood-fired oven, so they have a slightly different color and a slightly different texture. I know. Wow. This guy has a much bigger perspective than wow. He also told me this. When Herman Zimmerman built his house, it was not uncommon to use higher quality bricks on the front and lesser quality bricks on the sides and back to save a little money. And so now we know a little something about Herman Zimmerman, because not only did he use the highest quality bricks on the front of the house, he used them on the sides and on the back, top to bottom. When Herman Zimmerman built his house, the busy street / state highway / speedway that we now live on was a crushed rock road. Before that, it was a dirt road. Before that, it was a footpath through the now largely missing ancient forest, worn by the footfalls of the now largely missing first. And before that, it was covered in glaciers. And before that, it was covered in oceans. And before that, check this out, it was south of the equator. That's right, Herman Zimmerman's address, AKA my address, was quite possibly oceanfront property. Though it could have been underwater property, we're not really sure. But how did this come to be? Because the continents are always moving. Everybody be still. Do you feel it? Something that made me happy is don't feel it. That just really always blows my mind. It's amazing. I know it's a lot of water in the bridge, but rest. Herman Zimmerman. You do want to know more about Herman Zimmerman. Yeah. Good answer. Oh, I forgot to teach you a special effect. It's an easy one. We're going to learn it right now. It is known as the cheesy Greek chorus special effect. And you guys are going to be in the cheesy Greek chorus because I'm going to pull up signs and you're going to read them in unison, thus adding to the lifeblood of this performance. Are you game? Sure.
Herman built his house in 1926. He and his wife, Teresa.
How do I know this? Because one day, while I was sitting on the fine front porch that Herman Zimmerman built, watching the cars and the buses and the fire trucks and the cars and the buses and the plastic bags and the ambulances and the cars and the birds and the cars and the kids with skateboards and motorcycles and the cars, this guy down on the sidewalk is yelling something up to us. Hey, what's that? What's that? Your grandfather built this house? He loves this house.
His grandfather was Herman Zimmerman.
And this guy on the sidewalk told us that his father grew up in this house and that his father loved this house. Then this guy on the sidewalk told us that his daughter worked in the same restaurant as me at one time.
What? You worked with Herman Zimmerman's great grandfather?
So I did, can you even believe that?
No more.
Out here, I don't think that would be polite.
No.
Well, this guy on the sidewalk told us that his grandfather Herman, he had a piano in his dining room, AKA our dining room. So now we know a little something else about Herman Zimmerman, because not only did he like music, he didn't like a crowded house. Then this guy on the sidewalk told us that his father that piano in our dining room, and that his father's friend, Doris Campbell, would come over after school and sing with him.
Doris Campbell.
I do, can you even believe that? Oh, come on, you guys are really, not every audience is. Now, star of screen, stage, and radio in the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Oh.
Well, I'm not dead yet. We all know the chorus of her famous song. Hey, surround,
whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Hey, surround, what will be, will be.
As if we didn't already love our house. We love our neighborhood. We love the whimsical little 4th of July parade that goes right down our street, which was a crushed rock road, which was a dirt road, which was a footpath and the now largely missing ancient forest, worn by the footfalls of the now largely missing first house. And this is an important conduit on the underground railroad. And which is the very footpath that General Arthur St. Clair and his army used on their way to quell the native insurgents as instructed by General George Washington. That's right. Arthur St. Clair was going to use the footpath to quell the people who made it. There's a plaque in my neighborhood about this. It's maybe a half mile from my house because they stopped in my neighborhood. And it's just a simple little plaque. It doesn't really give you any facts. And so I will. The plaque doesn't tell you that General Arthur St. Clair and his army were traveling with 1,000 head of cattle. 1,000 cows. Why were they traveling with 1,000 cows, you may ask? Was their primary food source. You could think of this as an early version of carry-out. It's DoorDash. Now, I'm going to think that if an entire army and 1,000 cows were sitting for 6 weeks in this spot, because that is what the plaque tells us, that they were there for 6 weeks. I'm going to think they weren't just sitting there, right? I think there was some milling about going on. And I think it's quite possible some of those cows would have moseyed up to that ancient path through the forest and I think it's quite likely there were cows in my future front yard. I'm gonna think if there were cows in my front yard, probably cow pies in my front yard. I think those soldiers weren't gonna just sit there and be letting that happen, right? So they're like, oh, you better go and get those cows. Here, Betsy, it's lunchtime. And I think they were on that path and there they are up there in my front yard, come on, and get those cows to come in and. I just think if there were already guys in my, they were probably taking a leak too. Which is when we could have used the portal that. There are facts, there are facts. General in his army in 1791, camped very near to our house on their way to get the nasty job done. But they miserably failed in their efforts. So in 1790, General Anthony Wayne and his army came through much more successfully. Both armies were on their way to crush people already living here. And the house that we love stands firmly upon land that they hold dear. Every sunset and promise from the earliest. So many it's hard to surmise. All the tribes and the records of our state, such a surprise, so many names. And here is a fact that stopped me in my track, having to do with our claim. In the entire history of our ancient planet, my family is only the 16th to ever say of this spot on Earth, we own it. X marks the spot of the plot that we bought that has been here time without. And those here before us have lived in this forest and ocean, we can't help it. Set in longitude, latitude lines where I live, making. When I first started my examination of this spot on Earth, the thing that was easiest to start looking into for me, or the most obvious, was geology. What am I standing on? How did this happen? And I can tell you, coming into it, I knew about this much geology, and then I started doing some reading and learning, and I realized I knew about this much geology because my gosh, there's so much to know. It's so big and it's so old and so much is happening and it's still happening. It's not like it's finished, you know, it's still ongoing. The rock cycles are still happening. The continents are still moving. Did you feel it that time? It's still happening. One of the teachers in this was this little piece of limestone over here. You know, it's all over southwest New Holland. I learned from this how long it took to grow to be that tall. To make that thickness of limestone represents 35,000 years of oceanic life, living, dying, decaying, falling into the bottom of the ocean, falling into the bottom of the ocean. It's so old. I bring it to the show in a box because I never take care of it. And then Shortly after I learned that, I'm driving down the expressway through one of those famous cuts in the, you know, where you see all the rocks, and then, oh my gosh, what am I looking at? Oh, no, because it's not 35,000 years old, it's from an ocean that was here over 400 million years ago. Beep, 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 beep. And Grace is going, whoa, that is so much, that is incomprehensibly old. It made me look at everything differently. It made me look at everything differently. Everything we see, everything we touch, everything we use, everything we make, everything we eat, everything we buy on Amazon, the chips in your phone, the clothes you're wearing, it all comes from stuff we take from the earth. And we are prodigious takers. Now I wonder sometimes if maybe we don't take it for granted as if it's just here for the taking. That's what geology taught me. History taught me to think about this. How was the land taken? Who took it? From whom was it taken? And we know who took it because there are streets and buildings and plaques and counties and cities and schools with their names on it. But we will never know the extent, the full extent of from whom it was taken because we have kept those names out of our history. As I sit on the fine front porch Herman Zimmerman built, looking out at that busy street, that was a crushed rock road, that was a dirt road, that was a footpath through the now largely missing ancient forest. I know that it was worn by the footfalls of the now largely missing first people. Just like the forest, they're not gone. They are from here. They want to be here. They're trying to keep a toehold on their existence here. I've never really thought about this before. The privilege of sitting on Herman Zimmerman's fine front porch was made possible by the Northwest Treaty Territory Act. You guys, I don't know about you, but I had to relearn that Ohio was the Northwest Territory in 1787. Ohio is as far north and west as we had taken these yet. The Northwest Treaty Territory. Thus giving away to buy and sell something that had never been bought or sold before. My little property, my X on the map, was part of this huge tract of land that these guys up in New Jersey bought for the sole purpose of subdividing and reselling. I mean, they bought a tract of land that went from the Great Miami to the Little Miami. That's big, that's really huge. 1787, the new United States had just won its war for independence. We borrowed money to fight that war, and now the war was over, and the debt was due. Where was that money going to come from? Well, the First Continental Congress came up with this idea. They invented this thing called an organic act. An organic act that allowed them to declare this territory is now a part of the United States. And that by declaring it, it was so. And so just like that, some of the land in southwest Ohio was given to the soldiers who fought the war, and the rest was sold to developers. Now to figure out how to offload it, so to speak. When I was doing research on all of this, I would go down to the Cincinnati Historical Society, and amongst other things, I saw this really cool little map from right before this time, right on the cusp of all of this happening. And you guys, it is the coolest little map. It has little hand-drawn hills and hand-drawn trees, and running right through the middle of it is the river that's right down the street from my house, the Macatawa. That's the same river Arthur St. Clair's army came. there's still water running through, but it is not the same river. And that is because we know it as the Mill Creek. The Mill Creek, it was a marketing strategy. It was a rebranding. The guys up in New Jersey had to figure out a way to make this land down here that was completely covered in ancient forest, occupied, how to make it attractive to people. An English word, and a word with potential for profitability. Within 10 years of the name change on the maps that they were handing out, there were mills along all 28 miles of the Mill Creek. It's a remarkable marketing campaign. This is pre-internet. This is pre-Xerox. This is pre-mimeograph. I had not realized that before Ohio was Ohio, land was being bought and sold. The eventual treaty that would get broken hadn't even been written yet when my little property was first bought and sold. The Treaty of Greenville wasn't written until 1795. I had just never thought of myself in the context of history like this before. And I was completely amazed to learn how rapidly the ecosystem of the area was altered. Massive changes to the landscape, to the watershed, the near removal of the forest, the removal of the people, the loss of bear, beaver, bison, elk, fox, big wolves, cats. They were all from here. That's not something that was just out west. They were here. That was news to me. Those facts. The intersecting longitude-latitude lines where I live make an X. Come back to that. How am I taking care of my X? How's my X radiated to the next X? How am I connected? What are we leaving for those who come next? These are the questions my ex has taught me to ask. Is that the future calling? Folks, I'm going backwards in this play for a second. Because I forgot to tell you this important part of this. And this affects Westchester too. Because it's about the Mill Creek. And this is about the future, and listening to the future calling. When all of that stuff happened to the Northwest Territory, it was so fast that there are journal entries from the very early 1800s. I'm going to make you a timeline from the very early 1800s. Back here, they were saying, oh my gosh, what happened to all the game? Oh my gosh, this river keeps flooding. Oh my gosh, this river stinks. They were taking the tanneries were taking the carcasses off the animals and the hides off and throwing the carcasses in. And there was sludge from the early manufacturing and the breweries and the mills and blood from the ambulances. Then in the middle of the 1800s, the city of Cincinnati incorporated the Mill Creek as part of its first sewage disposal system. In 1904, the Mill Creek was declared the foulest waterway in the state of Ohio. And then through the 1900s, and a lot of you may remember this because I do, Mill Creek, those words were synonymous with stench and filth and weird colors. And then through the 1960s, the Army Corps of Engineers started to channelize it with concrete and segmenting, and life started to die because it wasn't interchangeable. There were sections of the Mill Creek by the 1990s that had no other life forms than bloodworms and leeches. It only took this long to transform the once beautifully flowing Macatawa River into the Mill Creek. But this is where the story changes, right here in the 1990s, because this is where a group of people get together and learn. We gotta do something about this river. We have some responsibility here. And they made a mission statement. And they made a 50-year plan. A 50-year plan. Do we think like that? We are people of the Instapot, for crying out loud. Oh my word. And this is so cool, you guys, because today, some 30 years into their plan, I can hop on a path right down the street from my house. It's a path they made, and I can see frogs and turtles and snakes and ducks and kingfishers and fox and beaver, and not one, not two, but three kind of heron. And I have watched bald eagles and from several places on the Mill Creek overhead, because there are now over 60 species of fish living in the Mill Creek. This is a remarkable story, you guys. I love to tell this story. There are several wetlands right out here in Westchester that the Mill Creek Alliance has been fostering, and there were 100 snow egrets there this fall, and they're finding all these new birds because they've got a place to land. I just love to tell that story and to pass that story on. That's just X marks the spot. Here we are. We're sitting right here in the middle of it. And that's what my ex has taught me. You want to talk about. Instead of future calling, it has our name on it. It offers up some options. It will tell how we live. Stand here with us. We stand here with us. How do we choose what prospers? How do we choose what life? There's a road that runs before us. It is a road that spans all time. It seems a forest, a forest. It seems to us across all time.
some really important questions, and helps, to think, I like so much, looking all the way into the past and where, where we are at this point and, at this spot that we're in, at this, where I live, the neighborhood that I'm in, what is the condition of it at this point? And, how is it connected with everything else, the water, the air, the plants, and are there problems? If there are, what's causing it? And then what is it, can we do something about it? So that's why I was so intrigued with Mary's play, and I think there's some great questions for us to ponder. And to consider, what is it that we can do? So thank you all for inviting us here.
Very much part of our tradition and our Franciscanism. Respect of all of life and where life comes from. And it's very appropriate that it's part of our presentation this evening. Because again, there's many things we take for granted. And many of them are the blessings we have from God. And that's something that we forget as creation, as beings. That the whole Eucharistic celebration is about coming and giving gratitude and thanksgiving to God for all the blessing God has been to each and every one of us. And the earth is what it all starts with. We're all in this world together. And even as we look at that too, and how does that truly exist for us all, we all have a responsibility to do our part, to pass it on to one another, to the best of our ability. Yes, we've made some mistakes, but mistakes can always be corrected, and that's what we always want to remember. Yes, things happen for a reason, but God's got the final say in everything. And that's what we must always remind ourselves back. We call it reconciliation. And it's something that our society is losing sight of today more than ever. That we're called to be people of reconciliation, people of peace, people of love, people that look at things counterculturally and to give God alone all the honor, the glory, and praise when rightens our minds and our hearts. And calls us to that holiness of life, to look behind ourselves and see how blessed we all are to be in this thing that we call life. And it's all for the great honor and glory of God. Deacon, if you could give us a closing prayer, and I'll give up final blessing.
Before we adjourn, I have a pre-announcement to make. What the heck is a pre-announcement?
You're gonna tell us when you're gonna make the announcement.
The St. Anthony Messenger has been part of, it doesn't go back as far as Mary's house. Part of our Franciscanism here in the greater Cincinnati area. Since the Franciscans had been here, it originally started as a publication for Third Order Franciscans. We call ourselves secular now, but it originally started as a publication for Third Order Franciscans. The pre-announcement is Sandy and I are making an announcement this evening that we're trying to encourage the secular Franciscans from our group, if they are not already subscribers to St. Anthony Messenger magazine, to subscribe. There are many articles on the subject we had tonight in St. Anthony Messenger magazine throughout any given year. Okay, and many other areas of our Franciscanism are explored in that magazine. So we are announcing that for anyone who is not currently a subscriber, we are going to pick up half the price for a subscription, for a 1-year subscription. Okay, I haven't checked recently. A couple months ago, it was a $48 a year subscription, so that would make that a $24 subscription. Okay, we plan to kick this off on March 1st, and you have till March 31st. Exactly the mechanics of how it's going to work are still being worked out, but we want to make the pre-announcement now, so I get off my butt and get this done. Okay.
Now you gotta.
So we got, well, I'm not the only. So yeah, so I hope that you consider that and look for more information coming hopefully before March 1st. Okay. Okay. Thank you much. Thank you.
There's some bougie water, as I call it, and some snacks in the other room that Charlie brought from yeah. Sister made them?
Yes.
All right.
So next month,
Here is the Stations of the Cross.
not next month,
Next, that's in April.
right?
Oh, okay, I thought you said
March
next
is-
month.
You're gonna be bringing in the
John Clark.
John Clark from our worker house is gonna come and share what they've been doing there, so. That'll
We'll
be
talk about
next
it.
month, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Sue, did you bring any papers?
I did.
Right. So go to where it's in front of the camera. So you can tell people online. You know, it's there, it's so great.
All right.
Thank you very so much, really does.
Ken Rath set out information about Franciscan Connect this summer, the retreat opportunity. There's a real treat this year. It'll be August 14th, if you're going on Thursday. The 15th, 17th otherwise, and our,
Retreat leader.
And there will be.
special announcement is that it's Father Murray Boda will be our spiritual, director at that time. So most of us know who Murray is and are aware of Murray for many, many years. Murray is an absolutely wonderful storyteller. If you thought John Quigley was good, you're in for an even more treat with Father Murray. We are excited that he is willing to come and be with us. Some of us.
We based on his books around like.
You might raffle that off.
Good fundraising. There you go.
It will be based on his book, Surrounded by Love. So, and we have papers. Well, I don't know who was it. Some people may have gotten it online.
Yeah.
So, I do have the paperwork. I just let people pick it up. It's going to be at, what's that this year, Gloria?
Lindenwood.
The Lindenwood, which is the mother house of the
Handmaids of.
something like that. It's in what was Indiana.
Or handmaids of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Or they're fine.
It looks like an absolutely gorgeous place. They're very excited to have us there, and we will be the only group there.
Yay.
So. Terry, thank you, Terry, for finding this for us. So it's a bit further to drive from Cincinnati, but you know, big deal. We went further years ago when we were teenagers to go places.
There's that opportunity to drive through the beautiful state of Indiana.
It's actually closer, quicker from Cincinnati than it is for me and Gloria to come from Hamilton.
Really?
Yeah, no, we're further north, because you're all interstate, we've got to find our way to the interstate.
Well, the miles here says that Hamilton is closer.
Yeah, I know, but not time wise, it's not. Cause y'all gotta get back.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
Taylor's
Well-
idea.
Be a bird and fly.
Pick up our, you have to pick up on your Dennis, I don't know.
She's traveling.
Anyway, I think that's our only announcement, other than Holy Families on Sunday,
Yep,
and,
all one weekend.
yeah, whatever. We're all good. Thanks for joining online, Greg and Janelle. And we'll see you next time. Formation in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Here about the bill
Thank you,
that
thank you.
Mary brought, and if
Bye.
anybody wants to come on out. Yeah, we'll go. Yeah, come on out. Yes.
Night, everybody.